Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Global Monastery. My name is Richard Dahlstrom, and I'm speaking to you today from the high Sierra Nevada mountains in California, where I've just finished speaking at a men's retreat. Our theme for this week in the Global Monastery is this admonition to serve one another. And so our text today is from Galatians, the 5th chapter, the 13th verse. Please listen as I read. For you were called to freedom, brothers, but don't turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but rather serve one another through love. This was a very important message to the Galatian church because rather than serving one another, their predominant mode of operation in relationship with one another was judging one another. It had to do with their interpretation of the Old Testament law and the understanding of the role of circumcision in salvation, and is it a necessity or not? But the bottom line is they were judging one another rather than serving one another. Serving one another does not require uniformity of thought as a precondition. We serve those with whom we disagree. We serve those who aren't yet fully formed or fully mature, knowing that we ourselves are also not fully mature. And the manner in which we are equipped to serve this way comes from our fullness in Christ. So we take Christ as a servant, as our example, and to do that, I take you to John 13, which will be a reading tomorrow, where we read this. Before the feast of the Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour had come that he would depart out of this world, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And then during supper, the devil, having put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, to betray him, Jesus, knowing the Father had given all things into his hands, knowing that he'd come from God and was going back to God, got up from supper, laid aside his garments, took a towel, and girded himself. So we see in the ministry of Jesus that his capacity to serve flowed out from this sense of fullness. He had an identity that was transcendent of his disciples' response to him. He knew that he'd come from God. He knew that he was going back to God. He knew that the Father had given all things to him. And it was out of that sense of fullness that he was empowered to serve. We too have a potential to serve out from a place of fullness. Why? Because the scriptures tell us we are complete in Christ. We've been given all things related to life and godliness. We're joint heirs with Christ. Christ is not ashamed to call us brothers and sisters. We share in the DNA of divine life by virtue of Christ in us. We're filled with the fullness of God. And so out from that place of fullness, we're able to serve, whether someone agrees with us or not, whether someone treats us properly or not. Our service, like agape love, is intended to be unconditional and can be when we operate out of fullness. So the call to service is an invitation to a secure identity in Christ. For out of being rooted and grounded in love, in the same manner in which this tree right behind me is deeply rooted in the soil, if I'm rooted in the same way that this tree is able to bless this entire forest, I'm able to bless others. But it requires rooting. I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. I know Christ. I know my gifts. I have a sense of fullness. This is God's desire for each of us. May we be filled with the fullness of God and know it and believe it in order that we then too might serve one another in love. I wish you a blessed week. Out from fullness, may you serve one another. And we'll see you next time.